Hello dear students, welcome back to your biology classes. In today's session, we will be continuing the hereditary and evolution. So shall we get into the topic? So, as you see in the figure, Gregor John Mendel, you already know, is the father of genetics. So he was the first person to discover the hereditary, especially the principles of hereditary during the early centuries, which is the early 19th century. So as he was experimenting the pea plants and its characters which is got in the generations, he was claimed, or he was so called to be the father of genetics, that is for modern genetics. So here in this dihybrid cross, as the word di means two. Here Mendel, he took two contrasting colors, especially the seeds and the shape of the pea plant. So we will be discussing in this session, we will be discussing about what is this dihybrid cross is. He conducted a very simple experiment in his garden itself using the pea plant. And what did he do? As he was experimenting, he observed the patterns of inheritance. What do you mean by inheritance? Inheritance is something which is inside. Okay, naturally, which is inside. So that is called as inheritance. So he observed the patterns of inheritance which was followed from one generation to another generation. So here goes the experiment. So here, as you can see in the figure, Mendel took the contrasting characters, or the other ways in genetics we can say it is the traits, he took together and he crossed it. For example, he took the color and the shape of the seed. So here he picked the wrinkled green seeds. He picked the wrinkled green seeds and he crossed it with the yellow round seeds. So what did he obtain? So the yellow round seeds in the first generation was very dominant. Okay, and this indicated that the shape which was round and the color which was yellow are dominant in nature. So meanwhile, what he did, he wanted to check out with the wrinkled green as well. So when he took the wrinkled green, the shape and the color, they were both these the contrasting traits where they found to be recessive. Recessive means it's very small. This is recessive. Then he cross-pollinated, or he self-pollinated in the first generation. So he resulted, what did he got in this experiment? He resulted in 4 different combinations of seeds, especially in the F2 generation, the second generation. He got 4 different contrasting color and the shape. Can you see what are those? It's nothing but they were wrinkled green. They were wrinkled green, and he also got the round yellow seeds, the wrinkled green seeds and the round green seeds in this experiment. And hence he concluded the experiment by saying that the phenotypic ratio, what is the phenotypic ratio? The physic, I already told you. Genotypic means it depends on the genes. It depends on the body characters. But here, the phenotypic ratio depends upon the height, the color, the round shape. Everything is called as a phenotypic ratio. So in this phenotypic ratio, he got the ratio as 9:3:1. So this was the contrasting colors he got in the first generation. So here, as you can see in the pictures, 9 will stand for yellow round. As you can see, the round color, the round color depicts the yellow round, and 3 yellow wrinkled. Yellow wrinkled means it will be little like a star shape. You can see in the figure itself, which means it is recessive. Okay, and next one what he got was that 3 green round he got. So you can see there the picture, 3 round he got and 1 green wrinkled, which is the pure character. So hence he concluded the experiment with the ratio, the phenotypic ratio 9:3:1. Okay, so the next. So the next part of our session will be sex determination in human beings. How can you determine the sex, whether it is a boy, it's a boy baby, or whether it is a girl baby? It's very, very simple. As all of you know, human beings consist of how many pairs of chromosomes? How many pairs he has? He has 23 pairs of chromosomes. All the human beings. So out of that, 22 out of the 23 pairs, 22 pairs are called as the autosomes. So 22 pairs and one pair of sex chromosome. Okay. So supposing if it is a male, he will have 22 plus XY. Supposing if she is a female, 22 plus XX. So this is the pairing of the chromosomes. So now these sex chromosomes, what do? They are very, very active, and thus they helps in the process of sex determination. Okay. Now when you take the males and the female, as I told you, they always carry two sets of sex chromosome. That is, when you take the male, as just now I told you, 22 pairs plus XY I said, isn't it? So 22 pairs of autosomes. So male will have X and Y sex chromosome. And if you talk about this X and Y chromosome, both are pretty active. Both the X and Y are active. But when you take the females, in case of females, the female has both two X's, which means 22 plus XX. These are the sex chromosome, and you must try to understand here the female sex chromosome, one X will be always active, and one will be little less active. So one will be out of one is very, very active here. So here the XY in male sex determination is found in humans, then it is found in mammals, and it is also found in insects, and of course in some species of plants. So when you talk about the offsprings, the children, especially this offspring, they will inherit X chromosome from their mother, right? So all the offsprings will inherit the X chromosome from the mother. So it may be a boy child or a girl child, whatever may be the gender or whatever may be the sexes, but they will inherit a sex chromosome from the mother. So here the sex of the children will be accurately determined by the type of the chromosome, right? By the type of the chromosome which is inherited by the father. That's why dominantly, if you see, the father characters will just come to the child, right? So it is because they inherit. In what do you mean by inherit? In born itself, they will have certain characters. So that inherited characters are got from whom? They are got from the father. So when you take the offspring, supposing a child who inherits the Y chromosome will be a boy. Of course, I told you. Supposing if a child which takes in or which receives the Y part of the sex chromosome will be a boy, and those who inherit the X chromosome, it will be normally it will be a girl child. So the males will always hold about 50% of the X chromosome cells. So therefore there are few possibilities that men can have more children. Okay, more, there is three, they can have more than three or more than children of a same single gender. So again, if it is a girl, the mother is not at all responsible. Okay, it is only inherited from the father. Supposing all the three are boys, it is also inherited from the father. Okay, so it depends upon all, that is the three or more children of a single gender is very, very possible in case of man. So the next slide will be, how do an organism's characters helps in the survival of the fittest? So that is the the next slide here. So all of you know, all the living organisms, they are able to reproduce. Why do they able to reproduce? Because they have to increase the population, right? And also the feed also will depend upon the resources which is in the surroundings. So here changes in the DNA, the patterns of DNA, or in the structure of the body may result in the difficulty to live or to sustain themselves in their particular ecosystem or habitat. But we know that the environment is not at all the same, right? The environment will not be the same. It will keep on be changing, right? So when you experience this, we are into the month of February. So when you take January, how it was? It was very, very cold and everybody was having flu and cough and all that. But now we have entered to the month of February, and you must just see the difference. Here itself you can see the difference, and now we are experiencing little hot, right? The especially the mid part of the noon, the afternoons are there. It's bit high sunny, right? So here itself you can see that environment is not consistent. It is not consistent. It keeps on varying. Okay, so as it varies, the changes, now it will change the different factors. Just now I told you it will change the climate, the climatic conditions. It will help in the change of climatic conditions, the temperature, the availability of any part of a resources, etc. So during this mutation or during this sudden change in the environment makes the species to become like to make the species little challenging for it to change accordingly. Okay, and it cannot survive to the particular habitat. Hence comes the role of the variation. So we already learned in previous session about what is variation and how variation takes place and all. So here comes the challenging task, that is the role of variation plays a very, very important role. So normally in a species, variation helps the organism to adapt. What do? They will make the organism to adapt in a particular environment so that it gives a challenging task of survival. So that is the main theory in it. So any number of characteristics or any number of traits can vary among the individuals of the species. So some may be you can see some are very, very tall, some are very larger, right? Some they fight against any type of infections, all, and some have the phenotypic characters, that is the small ear. The ear will have some type of air growth in it. All these are the changes which is adapted according to the environment, and this makes the individual to acclimatize. Okay, this makes the individual to live according to the surrounding environment, and all these characteristics, they determine the gene which is passed down from generation to generation. That is the gene which is passed down from the parents. And what happened from the gene of the parents, it will pass on it will just pass on one by one to the characters, to the other characters. So some of the characters or the trait, they provide, what do they give? They make advantage, or they give a competition. So survival of the fittest comes here, right? Like the speed, like the strength and attractiveness. All these are the some of the changes you can see in the person, and this adaptation is also one of the behavior. It is also one of the behavior making the organism to respond, or making the organism to acclimatize itself in its surroundings. So that is why the organism is able to survive. The genes itself will make the person to fight with the environment and to live, right? So it is genetically inherited. It is genetically inherited from the parents. If supposing that his parents is not, maybe the the parents would have got that gene from their father or from their mother. Like that, it passes on the gene and the characters, the strength, everything, all the bodily characters, everything is passed on from one generation to another. So, next part of our session will be the species and speciation. So when you talk about the speciation, what is that? It is the process by which new species are formed. Formation of new species takes place from the existing population. So speciation, when you talk about the speciation, it is the evolutionary process, or the process is taken right from the ancestral. It passes right from the ancestry. Okay, this is an evolutionary process of forming a very new individual. And these species, how do they evolve? They evolve by some mutation or some genetic modifications also in other ways. And some factors are that the geographical changes. It can be the surrounding environment, the climate, the weather, the temperature, the rainfall, the sunlight, anything it can be. So all these are due to the geographical changes. And some species, what do? Few species, they get isolated, or they get mingled with the other members of the community. Later, this group, what happens? It will grow into a huge mass or into a huge population. Later, this group, the isolated groups, grows in a different land. And you can also see new species are evolved from this group with new characters, with new phenotypic appearance. Everything will be differing because here they get evolved, right? And here what happens? There is a sudden change taking place in the makeup of the DNA, or in the makeup of the genetic process. So here, these new species which are hence formed, what do? They get themselves acclimatized with a new adaptation, okay, according to how the environment treats them. According to how the environment, they also get along, or they get attached to the environment. So here what happens? The natural selection plays a very big role, especially it plays a very massive role in the process of the speciation. What is evolution is? So all of you know, evolution is nothing but it is a change which takes over the time. So in this process, as you can see, in this process, the organisms they would have descended from the ancient organisms. The modern organisms would have evolved from the ancient organisms, or from the ancestral organisms. Now when you take, I can give you a simple example to be the Homo sapiens. What are Homo sapiens are? Homo sapiens are the human beings. So when you say, there are some evolutionary histories that man has evolved right from the monkeys, because the same characters are there, isn't it? Sometimes even we go crazy at times, right? And some people will also abuse us with saying monkeys. Why? Because some characters, the characters are processed, the organisms are taken from the ancient organisms, from there only we take. So here the theory of evolution is nothing but it is based on the concepts of all the species, the idea and the concepts of all the species, and how they are related, and how gradually the change makes the organism to develop into a new individual. So it is the modern organisms is nothing but it is got right from the ancestral part of it. They cannot be modern suddenly, they evolve, or they get evolved from the ancestral part. Here, the evolution, when you talk of the evolution, it relies on the variation, especially it relies on the genetic variation. We already saw in the earlier class about what is variation is, and I also explained how variation takes place right in plants, right in vegetables, fruits, in humans, in birds and animals and everything we were speaking about. So here also when you talk about the evolution, it always relies or it believes on the genetic variation. Supposing in a population will always be affected with the phenotypic characters. What are phenotypic characters are? The phenotypic characters are the physical characters of an organism. So when you take the characters, so the characters may give an individual, it may give an individual a benefit over the other individual, or I can tell you the one individual always advances it over the other individual, and what happens then, it passes on to their offspring. So this process is called as the evolution. Now let's see about the what are the traits. When you talk about the traits can be divided under two heads. One will be the acquired traits and the inherited traits. Okay, what are acquired traits? Acquired traits are nothing but the characters that is possessed by a person which develop during the lifetime. That is, in his lifetime when he lives, he takes some characters or some traits. Okay, that is called as the acquired traits. Now I can speculate a very good example. Let us take about a model. Okay, maybe a very beautiful model. So a very beautiful model will be very beautiful. She will be very tall. She will have a very fair complexion, right? She will be very attractive to see. But her offspring, maybe a boy or a girl child, it is not necessary that the boy child or a girl child should acquire the same body structure. It cannot have that. Okay, so that is called as the acquired trait. So the trait which is acquired by the model will not pass on to the physic trait. I'm talking about the physic trait will not pass on to her offspring. Okay, sometimes the beautiful model's child will be very hefty, will be very huge, sometimes dark in complexion. Okay, that has nothing to do with the acquired part of the trait. One more example also I can quote and I can tell you here. Maybe a bodybuilder. Okay, the bodybuilder's offspring, the son, not necessary that he must also be a bodybuilder. No, the muscles where he develops, it's not necessary in that case. So this type of trait, that is a person which develops during the lifetime, during his lifetime, is called as a acquired trait. Now these traits will not pass on from one generation to another. Now let's see what is inherited trait. As I already told you, inherited traits are nothing but the trait which is got from the birth itself. That is, when right from the baby born itself, it will acquire some trait. That trait is called as the inherited trait. So this trait are present in a person, especially from the birth, from the time of the birth, and this trait will pass on from one generation to another. So acquired trait it's also one of the characters which is developed in a particular individual. Okay, how it develops as a result of the or as a result of the environmental issues, or due to the influence of an environment. So these traits they do not code by the DNA of any type of a living organism, and therefore the acquired trait cannot be passed on to the future generation. Example, when I can tell you offsprings. Just now I told you the bodybuilder, but the bodybuilder's son or daughter need not necessarily have the large muscles, because it was developed. The bodybuilder has developed this phenotypic trait in his lifespan. Okay, due to the fuel conditions of the environment. So when you take the inherited traits, I can give you the best example. Supposing if the father has the habit of biting his nails, right? The child will also acquire it. You need not you need not teach the child how to bite the nails or not. It will automatically pass from the father to the child. So this character is called as the inherited trait. So these traits are the inherited, some of the inherited characters like the skin, the color, the eye color, the body type, the height, and even some inherited traits is that some children will have the susceptibility to fight against certain diseases by birth itself, right? So that is also one of the best example I can give you in the inherited traits. So here a single cell, when you take about the single cell in the human body, it consists of about 25,000 to 35,000 of gene. This is very kind information. It's one of the fact also, scientific fact. A single body will have 25,000 to 35,000 types of consist of the gene, and these gene will carry what? Carry the characters, especially which is inherited from an individual, right from his parents. So here Mendel explains some of the laws of inheritance. So here let me tell you about what is the law of dominance is. So here when two type or the two alternative form of character are, when it is present in the same individual, when it is present in an individual, so it forms, what does it, only one forms to express itself, only one forms to express itself in the first generation, and this is called as the dominant trait, while the form while the this forms that does not express itself will called as the recessive. Just now we saw in dihybrid cross also, right? The round yellow was dominant, right? The wrinkle green was recessive. Because why it was recessive? Because it did not express itself. So next, the law will be the law of segregation. Here it is one of the second law, and of course this law explains about the pairs of alleles, especially which gets separated or which gets segregated during the process of cell division. With cell division, during the process of meiosis, cell division. Here where especially the gamete formation takes place. So only one allele will be present in the each gamete. So the next, we are going into the next part, which is the law of independent assortment. Now here this law, it states that the alleles, okay, the alleles of two or more gene, they get assorted, or they get sorted, or they go sorted into different, that is into an independent gametes of each other, and here the alleles will always receive only one gene, only one, it will receive a it will receive one gene which does not influence the alleles of the another gene. So this is the law of independent assortment. Okay, so in this entire chapter, in this entire session, we saw about what is the dihybrid cross, and what is the phenotypic ratio of it. Then we were also discussing about the traits, the different types of traits. What is a trait, the inherited trait and the acquired trait, and we also saw about what is evolution, how evolution is formed, and how these traits help the organism to get acclimatized, or makes the organism to survive in this environmental conditions. So I hope this session was very useful to all of you children. So if you like this video, please share the video, subscribe to our channel to Exile, and of course don't forget to hit the thumbs up button there. So for more information, please, I have just pinned the form. Kindly, if you're interested in our session, do fill up the form and submit it through the Google format. Okay, children. So meet you all in the next part of the genetics. Until then, it's me signing off. Take care, children.